Last week, Friday, a group of terrorists attacked the Splendid Hotel Burkina Faso, in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou. The incident left 28 dead, many of whom were foreigners from at least 7 different countries. Terrorists warned the West African nation that it will attack the country. To speak to us more about the attack in Ouagadougou is Richard Chelin from Good Governance Africa. Richard, good to have you in studio again. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
The terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda claimed the attacks were because of Burkina Faso's good relations with the West. Now, the country went through a coup last year. Why would they go ahead and attack now, the beginning of this year?
Well, if you look at the group, the Al-Qaeda linked group, it's also known as Al-Murabitun, has been conducting major attacks in Mali and similar tactics, attacking hotels, as you remember in November. They attacked the Radisson Blu.
Yes.
So now they moved down to Burkina Faso, which is the neighbor to Mali. So they're descending down. And incidentally, it's the first Al-Qaeda attack in the country as well.
Yeah. I mean, we have our own border problems in South Africa, but the Al-Qaeda linked group called Al-Murabitun, is that how you say it? I mean, they said it took advantage of the country's porous border with Mali to conduct these attacks. What is border control like in these West African nations?
Well, that's one of the problems that happens. There's the link of porous borders, that's why you have a high rate of drug trafficking as well, which Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb is known to do. That's what they are also part of their operation, is to drug trafficking, human trafficking, and the likes. And the borders help that, especially with weak states, fragile states, countries that are going conflict, and such the likes of Libya, and the border between Niger and Mali. And very often these borders are not really well controlled as well. So this is one of the major problems, which allows the terrorist group to operate in a transnational fashion.
Yeah, it's just becoming such a worry when you see what's happening in West Africa, and one cannot be blamed in a certain way of saying that it's becoming a hub of terrorist organizations. I mean, we look at the likes of Boko Haram in Nigeria, and this Al-Qaeda linked to Mali. What's going on? Why?
Well, firstly, as you say, we have Boko Haram, which is also in Nigeria, which is not too far from Burkina Faso. But if we look at Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, it's a group that goes right back to the times of the Algerian Civil War. So they've been around since the 1990s, and they've just been adapting to the situation. And while Algeria was getting stronger, the military was getting stronger and more control in their country and stabilizing, then they moved down to Mali, where you had the weak government and attempted coup, and that's where they thrive. So they usually look for such opportunities of weak states, fragile states, for them to operate within. And unfortunately in that region we tend to see that this tends to happen, as in the likes of the northern Mali coup, as I just mentioned, Mauritania, and certain parts of the Niger as well.
Yeah. I suppose, are these type of terrorist groups looking for countries, well, let's say with the weakest link, who are vulnerable due to political instability? Because it seems that there is a common thread between some of these countries.
Yes, definitely. When they have a weak state, it means the government cannot control certain parts of that state, which allows them to flourish. Like if you look at northern Mali, this is where the jihadi linked group are usually functioning. This is where they flourish. As we see, there are terror groups that operate in that region, and every time there's a new terror group that comes in, and they either go linked to Al-Qaeda or linked with ISIS. And one of the way, I think, is to strengthen these countries and strengthen the weak state as such, and strengthen the capacity. And countries need help from outside, I would say, need help from other countries, needs to support each other in that like.
But just finally, in terms of the reaction from the economic community of West African states, popularly known as ECOWAS, what has the reaction been? Well,
ECOWAS, they were quite, if we would go back, let's say on a political front, they were quite active in the Burkina Faso's pushing for elections and helping the country to stabilize. And also they have a peace and stability force as well, which at the moment, we remember, the forefront is to combat Boko Haram in the countries of Chad, Niger, and Cameroon. But also they have also strongly condemned the attacks in Mali and and also Burkina Faso. But also we have to remember that there are also French forces, French military, who are also helping for counterterrorism measures in the region as well. But they would need the French alone cannot do it, but they would need a combined approach, combined support from ECOWAS as well.
All right, let's leave it there. Richard, thank you again for talking to us here on the program. Richard Chelin from Good Governance Africa, talking to us once again about this hotel, the Splendid Hotel attack in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou. Thank you. All right, it's time to say goodbye to you here on Morning Live. We're going to leave the